friends ever since.
Good day and greetings to all of my faithful subscribers, as well as to those of you out there who might have watched a few videos by this point but haven't quite worked up the courage to commit and press the wee red button down below. But whatever the situation might be, you'll probably quickly realise that I don't just make electronic music with synthesizers, despite what the name of the channel might suggest. And yes, I'm well aware that this probably indicates some poor planning on my part. However, it is what it is. Now, my background in music is much more deeply rooted in the world of kind of scuzzy alternative guitar bands. You know, the kinds of bands that play loud, aggressive music that might often be offensive. The kinds of bands that, you know, smash up their instruments during practice. That is the kind of world which I'm much more comfortable in and which I still inhabit. At this point, I play in a couple of different bands. One of them is called Hog Wild. In that band, I sing, I play bass, and I also do some electronics, despite what I said about not just making electronic music. And you might have seen me talking about this before, but this is our debut LP, which we released last year. It was completely DIY, we recorded it in our own studio and everything. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, please have a look at the link below and possibly buy one of these so we can hopefully make back some of the production costs. Now today I'm going to be talking to you about my other band. That is a band called Closet Organ. We've been playing together since we were in high school, which is about 20 years or something at this point, which is kind of terrifying. And, you know, shockingly, perhaps, you know, over the 20-year period, we have, you know, not seen astronomical success. However, we are going on tour in a couple of weeks around the UK. It's going to be our longest dates in terms of successive days in a row that we've ever gone on tour. And it's really exciting for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because the last time we got to do something like this was back in November of 2019. And at that point, after so long of playing in a band, you know, it was beginning to get to a point where we felt pretty good about things. We were building up a lot of momentum. The songs were sounding good. We were feeling like, oh, maybe this is, you know, our time. We're really getting somewhere. And then, of course, the pandemic hit and it kind of destroyed all that. Because not only could we not see each other for so long, but we also couldn't, you know, get into the studio that we had to keep paying for at that time. And, you know, generally, as you know, the experience for everybody was pretty shitty. And we kind of had a fear that we would never be able to really play live in the way we had been before. Because at our kind of level, a lot of the venues that we would play at, or which we knew and liked, had unfortunately shut down or weren't putting gigs on anymore. And in general, it looked pretty bleak for live music. Now recently, as things have begun to kind of open up a lot more in the UK and COVID restrictions have been relaxed significantly, we decided to book a DIY tour, and to our kind of shock, we actually managed to get offered quite a lot of gigs, which hasn't always been the case in the past, I have to say. And even more surprising, I guess, is the fact that we've landed a few headline slots, so I don't really know what's going on. However, it is going to be an interesting time. And so basically this video is a begging promotional video to ask you, if you're near any of the dates, then please do come down and see us. I'll put the dates below, but as you can see, I've got some nice posters and CDs and things that you can come and buy off us. Now, even if you don't like me, even if you are perhaps somebody who wants to come down and debate the ethics of Beringer's business practices, that's completely fine. So long as you buy a ticket and you stand in the room for 30 minutes, you don't even need to wait to see us. Just turn up for a wee while, just so that the promoters in these various towns across the UK that have booked us don't batter us because nobody turns up. Now obviously this is a grossly self-promotional video where I'm begging you to come and see my band on tour. However, I've done a lot of tours over the years as a driver, as a photographer, playing in different bands, and I've picked up some things or tips along the way that I think are worth sharing with you in terms of things that you should absolutely take on tour, which you might not necessarily think about. And so in the way of kind of clawing some credibility back from this pleading video, I thought I would share some of them with you. Now, I'm not talking about technical stuff, I'm not talking about guitars, I'm not talking about like toolkits or anything like that. I'm not going to tell you that you should, you know, make sure all your patch cables are working and all that kind of thing. Especially don't do what I did, which is reorganise your entire pedal board the week before you go away, because that's never a good idea. But I'm going to give you some of the weird, well not weird, but some of the things that I always take with me anytime I go on tour now. For the first thing, anytime I go on tour, I have to have a big hoodie. And it has to be one of those hoodies that's really soft. And for this reason, I bought a brand new hoodie specifically for this tour. It was a cheap ass hoodie. However, you know that way new hoodies have always got that kind of soft, kind of fleecy inner lining? That's the kind of thing you want on tour. For a variety of reasons. Firstly, because if you're on tour, I always seem to find myself feeling cold, and it doesn't matter what the weather is like. Once you step foot inside some kind of venue, if you've ever been in a pub or something like that a few hours before it's opened, especially a nightclub actually, where the air is kind of stale, it never feels nice and it never feels warm at that point. And so having a hoodie, even in the heights of summer, is something you should, I feel like I always need it. And also I think it gives you a nice barrier away from the kind of, the various things you're going to encounter, not least because you can put the hood up and kind of, bury yourself away so you don't have to see anybody. So whilst this might not be the best hoodie in the world, I would always, always, always take a nice, oversized, comfortable hoodie. The second tip that I've got in terms of going on tour is these things. Now, you might have noticed I'm wearing dungarees, as we call them in the UK, or overalls, I believe they call them in the States. And this might not be the most fashionable thing in the world. And yes, it may make me look something like, a kind of hillbilly kids TV presenter. However, I think that these are incredible when going on tour for a variety of reasons. Not only do you have a whole host of different bits and pieces that you can hang things on or clip things to, you also have a whole host of different pockets where you can store things like earplugs and your phone, or, your plectrums, whatever it might be. But also, they are extremely comfortable and hard wearing. So if you're lying on the floor of some grotty venue, you don't have to worry about them all getting ruined. But also, you can move about freely. And most importantly of all, I think, if you've ever had to carry guitars or heavy amps or something into a venue, you'll know that inevitably there will be some huge, flights of staircases that you have to go up and down. And there's nothing worse than being on those stairs, especially when the venue are pissed off at you because you've arrived late or whatever, and you're carrying all your stuff and you feel your trousers start to slip because your belt has kind of worked its way down, and then you're faced with the dilemma of having to put things down and risk, it rolling or falling down the stairs, or you have to grab your trousers. And so that's not a problem with dungarees because they stay up no matter what. So, as ridiculous as it may seem, I am taking 2 pairs of dungarees on tour, and I would suggest that everybody does the same. Now, the next thing, which is the final clothing related item, are these. Now, these are not our specific brand or, special thing, but these are called packing cubes. And the purpose of packing cubes is to let you organise your clothing and other items in a much more neat way. So, for example, you have your clothes and you fucking stick them into your packing cube, you can roll them up, and then you've got everything in a bag, and you can organise things however you want. This way you can have your t-shirts in one, you could have your socks and all that in another one, so that when you open your bag you can just pull out the relevant bit that you need without having to scramble through a big mess of clothes and untangle everything. And this is especially good, I found, for delineating between worn clothes and clean clothes, because then you know what you've got, and everything is neatly there, and you don't have to be in a rush when you have to run out the hotel for whatever reason. You've got everything. It's just so much easier. And this is something I have to tell you that I get slagged for on tour multiple times. People think that being organised on tour is somehow ridiculous or less punk rock or something, but I'll tell you, there's nothing more fucking punk rock than organised clothing and toiletries. Now that's 3 things, right? But as an added bonus, I'm going to show you something else which I take every time I travel because I think they're fantastic. And that is one of these things. This is a Cocoon Gridit. Now they have not paid me to say this. This is not a sponsored video for them. However, I would gladly accept money from them if they had to offer it. But these come in a variety of sizes. I'll show you. I've got another one over here. You can get wee ones, you can get big ones. And the general idea of these is that you get a grid of elasticated kind of, can I get it? Like strappy things. And this lets you organise and, keep everything contained, which is really handy for cables, but also for wee things like adapters or earplugs or battery packs or whatever it might be. And I have to say that much like the packing cubes, these things are gold. Anyway, that's my plug. Please do come and see us on tour if you're nearby any of these places we're going to. The dates will be below. My plan is to make a whole bunch of videos on the road. However, I'm not entirely sure how much I'll be able to process them or upload them when I'm away, partly because of the internet situation, but also because, weirdly speaking, even when you're on the road, or especially when you're on the road, even though 90% of it is extremely boring and basically just consists of waiting around, you actually don't have a huge amount of time to focus on doing anything else, and that's because you're waiting on somebody else to come and get you to set up or sound check or whatever. And so in the past, I've taken things like books or whatever, and I've never read them because you're kind of in limbo all the time. But the point is, I will be recording a bunch of stuff. The channel might be quieter than usual over the time I'm away. Over the time I'm away. That's difficult to say. Do bear with me and give me suggestions of anything you want to see. The backstage, behind the scenes kind of glamorous life of a clearly very successful rock and roll star. I'll do my best to film it so long as it works within YouTube's content guidelines and I don't get suspended. But anyway, for now, thanks for listening. Come see us on tour, get a wonderful poster, fucking buy a CD and all the rest of it. Goodbye.